On World News Tonight, climate controversy. US President introduces Building Back Better while playing the blame game against China. Jabs approved. The CDC follows suit on an FDA green light for child vaccines with rollouts to begin in a moment's notice. Explosive threats. Kabul in shreds as the latest wave of terror takes more innocent lives. Wholesome fun. A spooky celebration for a brave little survivor battling the most gruesome of diseases.
From the global resources of the Derana Media Network, this is the Derana World News Tonight. Now reporting from Studio 24 in Colombo, here's Suzanne Shenali.
A very good evening and thank you for joining us on World News Tonight. On today's coverage, we start off with rising tensions between international superpowers. At a Build Back Better World roundtable held on the sidelines of the UN climate conference, US President Joe Biden said supporting infrastructure in low and middle income countries is evidence of a strong democracy. He also repeated his criticism of China over Beijing's decision to skip the summit, despite being the world's worst polluter.
On the second day of the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow, U.S. President Joe Biden hosted a Build Back Better World roundtable. He said leaders at the summit can prove that democracy is strong by supporting infrastructure projects in the developing world.
Every project that's started, we should think about it from the perspective of climate. I mean that sincerely.
Build Back Better World is an initiative announced by Biden at a G7 summit in June to provide infrastructure to low and middle income countries. Some have interpreted the plan as a U.S.-led counterproposal to China's Belt and Road Initiative, a plan proposed by China in 2013, involving development and investment initiatives that will stretch from Asia to Europe and beyond. At a news conference at COP26, Biden said China had made a big mistake by not showing up at the climate conference.
I think it's been a big mistake, quite frankly, for China, with respect to China not showing up. The rest of the world is going to look to China and say, what value added are they providing? And they've lost an ability to influence people around the world and all the people here at COP.
Earlier on Sunday, following an end to a dispute over steel and aluminum tariffs between the U.S. and the EU, the White House said that they will work together to restrict access to their markets for, quote, dirty steel, and also limit access to countries that dump steel in their markets, without naming China directly. An industry watcher says bilateral ties between the two countries are not going to get better anytime soon. He also added that with an intensified rivalry between the U.S. and China, countries including South Korea are in a very difficult position and forced to take sides, a difficult decision for any country.
Meanwhile, a British scalloped dredger seized by France is being held at the port of Le Havre, the owner of the ship said. Earlier, British Environment Secretary George Eustace said he understood the vessel had been freed by France.
There was confusion early Tuesday about the fate of a British trawler held by French authorities and the state of a major fishing dispute between the two countries. British Environment Secretary George Eustace said he understood the vessel had been freed, but the boat's owner later said it was still being held at the French port of Le Havre. As of Tuesday morning, ship tracking data showed the vessel was still in France. It comes a day after French President Emmanuel Macron said his government was postponing sanctions against Britain. France alleges Britain has not honoured a post-Brexit deal on access to British fishing grounds. Macron warned France would retaliate by stepping up checks on trucks coming from Britain. He also said France would ban British trawlers from docking in French ports. Macron, who is in the UK attending a UN climate conference, told reporters Monday the French plan was on hold until they saw the outcome of renewed talks. Eustace said postponement of the sanctions marked a welcome move by Paris to step back from escalation.
Following some more updates on COP26, Germany's environment minister says South Africa's coal phase-out has the potential to become a blueprint for other regions. For more on this, we have Derana World News special correspondent Inuka Ponzo reporting from Kyiv in Germany. Inuka?
Yes, Shanali. The US and several European nations, including Germany, have pledged $8.5 billion to help South Africa phase out coal and expand renewable sources of energy. The partnership was announced at the COP26 climate conference in Glasgow. Germany said it planned to invest €700 million as part of the plan. This is also backed by the UK, France and the European Union. The funding will be provided to South Africa, Africa's biggest carbon emitter, over the next 5 years in the form of grants and loans. The initiative is expected to support the country's transition away from coal-fired power stations and promote the use of clean technologies, including green hydrogen. It also aims to help create new jobs for the tens of thousands of people who work in South Africa's coal mining sector. South Africa's government said the money would help it deliver on a more ambitious pledge to reduce emissions by 2030. Back to you, Shanali.
All right, thank you. That was Other Than a World News special correspondent Inuka Ponce reporting from Kyiv in Germany. In a proactive approach, most big UK firms and financial institutions will be forced to show how they intend to hit climate change targets under proposed Treasury rules. Let's cross over to Other Than a World News special correspondent Malchi Abesekar reporting from Norwich in UK for more. Malchi?
Yes, Shanali. By 2023, they will have to set out detailed public plans for how they will move to a low-carbon future in line with the UK's 2050 net zero target. Plans will be submitted to an expert panel to ensure that they are not just spin. But net zero commitments will not be mandatory, and green groups say the proposals do not go far enough. Firms and their shareholders will be left to decide how their businesses adapt to the transition, including how they intend to decarbonize the emissions they finance. The Chancellor will also announce that 450 firms controlling 40% of global financial assets have now aligned themselves to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. He says advances have been made to rewire the entire global financial system for net zero under the UK's leadership of the conference. Back to you, Shanali.
Thank you, and that was Other Than a World News special correspondent Malchi Abesekar reporting from Norwich in the United Kingdom. Let's go into a short commercial break. We'll be back soon with more world news. Welcome back. Now on to the fight against COVID. Pfizer's mini dose of COVID-19 for kids 5 to 11 years of age got a thumbs up from the CDC advisory panel and the first shot to be given within the next few hours. The director of the CDC calls this a momentous day.
The final CDC vote came late this afternoon.
I am going to take my child to get this vaccine, and I have gotten my other kids vaccinated.
The CDC's advisory committee voting unanimously to approve emergency use authorization for Pfizer's COVID vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds. Already, vials are rolling out to hospitals, pediatricians, and pharmacies nationwide. The orange caps designate children's doses, 2 shots with smaller needles, and a third of the adult dose, which comes with a purple cap.
The U.S. government has placed orders with us that basically covers every kid of this country. So I think the supply will be there, and hopefully a lot of kids will benefit from it.
The CDC reports 1.9 million known cases among 5 to 11-year-olds, 8,300 hospitalizations, and at least 94 confirmed deaths, with African-American, Hispanic, and Native American kids at 3 times the risk for hospitalization. Leading pediatricians say vaccinating this age group is critical if they are to return to a normal childhood.
There are children in the 2nd grade who have never experienced a normal school year. There are students in middle school who missed out on school sports and extracurricular activities.
Many parents have been nervous but anxious to get their children vaccinated.
I'm kind of scared a little bit, but when I did it, I was okay.
Others are worried that the vaccine hasn't been studied long enough, and some worry about extremely rare cases of heart inflammation in older children.
It's just scary because it's like, what is it? And then there's so many different ups and downs of what the vaccine does and what it doesn't do.
The first wave of 5 to 11-year-olds who received their shots could be fully vaccinated by Christmas.
I think people should realize that a choice not to get a vaccine is not a risk-free choice. It's a choice to take a different risk, and I would argue a more serious risk.
In more relieving news, police in Western Australia broke down the door of a locked home in a small town of Carnarvon, ending an extensive 18-day search for a missing 4-year-old girl.
A 4-year-old girl who went missing from a campsite in the Australian outback over 2 weeks ago has been found alive and well, according to authorities. Local police said Wednesday they found Cleo Smith inside a locked house in Carnarvon, some 60 miles south of the campsite, early in the morning. They also said a suspect has been taken into custody in relation to her disappearance. Cleo was last seen in her family's tent around 1:30 a.m. local time on October 16th at the remote campsite over 500 miles north of Perth, the capital of Western Australia. She had disappeared by the time her parents woke up the next morning. Australian police feared the girl had been abducted and offered a nearly $750,000 reward for information. Prime Minister Scott Morrison tweeted his relief on Wednesday, writing, quote, "Cleo Smith has been found and is home safe and sound. Our prayers answered."
At least 25 people were killed and more than 50 wounded in an attack on Afghanistan's biggest military hospital, which saw 2 heavy blasts followed by gunmen assaulting the site in central Kabul.
A Taliban security official has announced at least 25 people have been killed and over 50 wounded after 2 explosions and gunfire broke out at Afghanistan's biggest military hospital. The explosions took place at the entrance of the 400-bed Sardar Mohammed Dawood Khan Hospital in central Kabul on Tuesday. They were followed immediately with an assault by a group of gunmen, a Taliban spokesman said, who also added that 4 of the attackers were killed by Taliban security forces and a 5th was captured. A health worker who managed to escape from the scene reported hearing a large explosion followed by a couple of minutes of gunfire before a second larger blast. While there has been no immediate claim of responsibility, the official Bakhtar news agency quoted witnesses saying a number of Islamic State fighters entered the hospital and clashed with security forces. The blasts add to a growing list of attacks and killings since the Taliban completed their victory over the previous Western-backed government in August. Islamic State, which has carried out a series of strikes since the Taliban's seizure of Kabul, mounted a complex attack on the hospital in 2017, killing more than 30 people. The group's attacks, coupled with a spiralling economic crisis, have caused mounting concern over the future stability of the country.
There has been a recent rise in abduction of children in small schools in Nigeria, and now it's becoming a very common act. A so-called rare kidnapping took place at a large institution in the Nigerian capital.
Gunmen abducted 4 members of staff and their children from the University of Abuja on Tuesday, the university has said. It is a rare kidnapping, taking place at such a large institution and in the Nigerian capital.
But my child is there in the bush.
Lecturer Basi Ubom says he escaped the violence, but that his daughter was taken.
3 of the boys were in front of my house shooting more than 20 rounds at the same time. I don't even know what is it, AK, what I call AK-47, those in the military. And there was no response.
Gangs of armed men, known locally as bandits, have launched a series of abductions from schools and attacks on villages since late last year. They are mostly in the northwest of the country, in exchange for ransom. While there have been kidnappings of individuals on the outskirts of Abuja, attacks on universities are rare. Abdul Rashid Nala, Vice-Chancellor at the University of Abuja, said security forces were immediately deployed and that a pursuit of the attackers was underway. Meanwhile, Nigeria's security forces remain stretched on several fronts, including by the growing lawlessness in the north and northwest and a 12-year Islamist insurgency in the northeast that has killed thousands.
In an effort to further secure user safety on one of the most popular social media sites in the world, Facebook has announced it will now be removing the automatic facial recognition feature on the site to battle growing concerns.
Facebook announced on Tuesday it is shutting down its facial recognition system, which automatically identifies users in photos and videos. The company cited growing societal concerns about the use of such technology. In a blog post, Facebook's Vice President of Artificial Intelligence wrote that while the technology had many beneficial uses, quote, its long-term role in society needs to be debated in the open. The removal of facial recognition by the world's largest social media platform comes as the tech industry has faced a reckoning over the past few years over the ethics of using the technology. Critics say facial recognition, which is popular among retailers, hospitals, and other businesses for security purposes, could compromise privacy, target marginalized groups, and normalize intrusive surveillance. The news also comes as Facebook has been under intense scrutiny by regulators and lawmakers over user safety and a wide range of abuses on its platform. The company, which last week renamed itself Meta, said more than 1/3 of Facebook's daily active users have opted into the face recognition setting on the social media site, and the change will now delete the facial recognition templates of more than 1 billion people. A Facebook spokesperson said the removal will roll out globally and is expected to be complete by December.
Welcome back, and for more news, let's take you around the world in a minute. Taiwan's armed forces unveiled the first generation of a battery-powered exoskeleton on October 26th, aiming to increase efficacy and endurance of soldiers in the field. North Korea's state media is prompting the consumption of black swan meat, saying it is a valuable food source. The North state-run television reported the completion of a swan farm with a newly developed industrial-scale breeding system that would help improve people's lives. Surveillance camera footage taken in the earlier hours showed a shaking streetlight and fences in a Chilean city after a magnitude of 5.9 earthquake reportedly hit the coastal city. Republican Glenn Youngkin won the Virginia governor's election, warning that President Joe Biden's Democrats are at a disadvantage heading into the next year's congressional elections. Devotees flocked to the temples in India to offer prayers to Hindu monkey god Hanuman as they marked Hanuman Jayanti amid coronavirus. Hundreds of thousands of Afghan girls and young women have not been allowed to return to their studies since the Taliban seized power in mid-August and are awaiting the moment they are able to resume studies. Tesla CEO Elon Musk said the company had not signed a contract with Hertz more than a week after the car rental firm announced a massive deal with the electric car maker.
A comment by CEO Elon Musk slammed the brakes Tuesday on Tesla's surging stock. Musk said the electric vehicle maker had not signed a deal with Hertz. That seemed to clash with the rental car company's announcement late last month that it had ordered 100,000 Tesla cars, which would make it Tesla's biggest order ever. Hertz, in fact, is already advertising the tie-up on its website, inviting customers to book a Tesla. That news ignited a big rally in Tesla shares, sending the company's valuation past the $1 trillion milestone. But Musk tweeted late Monday, "If any of this is based on Hertz, I'd like to emphasize that no contract has been signed yet. Hertz deal has zero effect on our economics." That message sent Tesla shares down more than 4% in early trading Tuesday before paring some of that decline. Tesla did not immediately respond to a request for comment, but Hertz said in a statement that deliveries had already started. Last week, Hertz's interim CEO Mark Fields told the order will primarily include Model 3 vehicles. If the entire order were for that mass-market car, that would value the deal at roughly $4.5 billion.
And finally tonight, Halloween arrived early in a Maryland neighborhood. A 6-year-old girl's neighborhood helped her celebrate her favorite day before she started chemotherapy.
All right. Like most kids, 6-year-old Casey Zachman loves Halloween, the candy and the costumes.
She was the best Mary Poppins you've ever seen. Ever.
But this year, in this Maryland neighborhood, Halloween was different. Casey, a joyful little girl who loves the outdoors, was diagnosed this summer with brain cancer.
And I got 15 IVs. 15 IVs, yeah, because you have really small veins.
After surgery and radiation, her chemotherapy was starting just before Halloween, so the neighbors helped Casey have her favorite day early.
Everybody was home, everybody had candy, everybody wanted to be there.
Showing the love and power of community.
We did it 100% for Casey, not for us at all, but at the end of the day, I was just reflecting on how just like completely happy I was, and it's been a while since there's just been like joy. It was really great to have that feeling and that good day.
A good day, a real treat.
In case you have missed any of the stories we aired tonight, you can rewatch by catching us on our YouTube page, youtube.com/otherthanenglish. And that's all the news we have for you tonight. Join us again tomorrow with another edition of World News. I'm Suzanne Shanali. Until then, stay safe and have a good night.